So let's just picture this. You're on a date, they're charming, they're funny, maybe even ticking some of those boxes that you know, really would like to be ticked. But then a few weeks later, you're sat there thinking, how did I miss that? How did I end up here again? Today, I am pulling back the curtain on the red flag that almost everyone misses within the first few dates, the first few interactions. These are the ones that cost you months, sometimes years of your life. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Sam Morris, and I have spent the past 11 years helping single men and women break free from toxic cycles and finally find the healthy love that they deserve. This is my podcast where I talk about love, dating, changing behaviors, and manifesting the life that you want, and everything in between. So let's get to the episode. A question that I am often asked is, why do I miss the red flags? Why do I fall for the wrong person? Or in hindsight, why didn't I know? And the truth is, most people have been hurt before. It's very rare to find a human that hasn't experienced some sort of hurt in their life, right? And some people have experienced more than others, sometimes as a child or from romantic relationships as an adult. And what happens when we experience that hurt is we learn ways to protect ourselves. And this is really where the nervous system comes in. Our nervous system, you hear me talk about the nervous system all the time, controls everything that we do. It consists of the brain, the spinal cord, the sensory organs and nerves, and it controls everything we do. What the nervous system does when we're talking about love is it remembers what has happened before and thinks that those things, those traits, those habits are safe, which is really great for healthy habits like your morning routine. It makes your life a lot easier, actually. But when it remembers a certain trait of a person or a behaviour, even a look that is familiar, and misinterprets that person as being safe for you, that's where it can get really confusing and really complicated. It does explain why you will keep being attracted to the same kinds of person if you don't fix this. So the simplest way to explain this is think about your morning routine. Think about when you brush your teeth within that routine. So I do mine as soon as I wake up. Now try to picture yourself brushing those teeth at a different time. Feels weird and yucky, right? You might have even involuntarily pulled a face at the thought of doing your teeth at a different time to what's in your routine. And that is exactly what happens when someone who is the opposite of what you have dated before tries to approach you, where you are like, oh, no thank you. Does that make sense? And so this familiarity from the nervous system makes us miss things that in hindsight we should have known. And I've been sharing on Instagram a couple of the red flags that I've missed over my life. And some of them, I wouldn't even say that I missed them. I would say that I was downright delusional to think that this wasn't a problem. If you haven't seen some of these videos, head over to my Instagram. I'm at the SMr&x. One of the red flags that I missed that I didn't talk about was the guy that I dated that had moved 3 doors down from his ex-girlfriend on purpose. Now, in hindsight, alarm bells should have been ringing at that, right? He chose to rent a house 3 doors away from his ex-partner. It doesn't take a genius to work out that, clearly there is still some connection there. But no, not me. I didn't realise. So, and it wasn't until I had healed my nervous system that I started to see these patterns, the patterns of the people that I was with, like the traits that they had, the behaviours that they had. And that might be the thing for you. So here are 5 red flags that you may have possibly missed, because most people do. Inconsistent communication. So this one is often difficult to spot because of the effect it has on our hormones. When someone shows us a bit of attention, we get excited, which gives us a miniature dopamine hit, which is like a natural high that can be gotten from doing things that you enjoy. And then when that person withdraws, they stop texting you, they stop communicating slightly, you start to crave that feeling. The reason that this red flag is often missed is because most people confuse missing the feeling with missing the person. But it's actually you miss the feeling that that person gives you, that excitement that you get. It's not anything to actually do with them. So then the nervous system tricks you into thinking that you like that person more than you actually do because of that excitement. A situation where this might happen is where they may text you like loads in one day constantly and then take a whole day to reply the next day. And yes, I do get that they might be genuinely busy, but if they are going to be busy, they should communicate that with you beforehand, not after the fact, not after you've said, oh, you've not messaged me all day. That's weird. Because this type of behavior demonstrates that they aren't actually emotionally secure enough to be in a relationship in the first place. If they cannot communicate that they're busy, or if they need to play games with you where they're really intense 1 minute and not intense the next, they aren't the person for you anyway. Number 2 of red flags that people often miss is oversharing. So I want you to think about when you first meet someone, do you tell them your whole life story? Probably not. You think about how many times you've listened to me on this podcast. Do you know my whole life story? No, because I haven't shared it. I shared bits of it, little snippets, but I haven't told you from start to finish. When you meet someone for the first time, do you tell them your parent was maybe emotionally abusive or that your last partner cheated on you? Quite unlikely, right? But often we meet new people and they tell us everything. And all of a sudden, it actually becomes our burden to hold, our problem to make them feel better. And it isn't our problem. In a partnership, yes, you do support one another. But when people overshare so early on into a relationship, it actually changes the balance of that relationship from the beginning. It sets the relationship up for you to be a constant support network for someone who doesn't actually show you the same effort. And most people don't see that because they think, as I once did, oh, that's cute that they're being vulnerable, they're sharing about their hurts, their pains. And if it's your first few meetings, this isn't cute. This is them putting ownership on you, that it's now your responsibility to sort them out. And I know that sounds harsh, but that is the truth. That is what I have seen working with hundreds of people who have committed domestic violence offences. And I don't talk about this often enough, about my experience of actually working with the people that have committed these offences, committed controlling behaviour, coercive behaviour, because it's not a nice subject to talk about, but this is the truth, that it starts as a manipulation of you are now in control of their emotions, because they put that on you very early on. And just to prove this point, can you guess roughly how many sessions I have with a client before I get to the true depth of what their pain is, what their beliefs are? Have a guess. I will tell you at the end of the episode. The third hidden red flag that most people miss is subtle little boundary pushes. So it could be that you say, oh, I need to go home because I've got work tomorrow. And they say, come on, don't be boring. Have one more drink. It could be them inviting themselves along to something that you were never actually going to invite them to. This one happens a lot where, they'll ask, oh, what's your plans? Oh, I'm going out with my friend. And then they're, oh, I'll come. And in your head, you instantly think, that wasn't an invitation. But we're all, as humans, we find it really hard to then turn around and say no, because it's deemed as rude. And most people, because they don't want to be rude, then find themselves letting their boundaries be pushed just a little bit. And it is so easy to fall into, because it happens so quick that you don't get the chance to think about it. Normally, these boundary pushes are super quick, where you haven't had time to reflect. So you haven't had time to think, oh, actually, that isn't what I want, or actually, that was a boundary push. It's only afterwards. And then normally what will happen is people will then try and convince themselves, oh, they're overreacting. If this happens to you, just remember that it isn't actually rude to have your boundaries. And if someone can't accept them, they aren't worth your time anyway. That is the truth. The fourth hidden red flag that most people miss is speediness. Now, I'm all for thinking about the future. I'm all for imagining the future and how great it will be. You know that. But let's just think about it. If you started a new job and on the first day, your manager is saying to you how one day you're going to have their job, you're going to be running this company, how would that make you feel? A bit weird, a bit apprehensive, a bit like, I don't know whether I want to be here in 20 years, right? What happens is most people don't pick up on this when it happens in a dating or relationship situation. So they get tricked into thinking that it's exciting when the person that they're with starts talking about their future, because they want a future with this person. Like, you're not going to go on a date or start seeing someone that you don't want a future with. When they start talking about the future, it's exciting. And I've had clients tell me that, they've been on dates where people have said about going off somewhere for the weekend, to Paris for the weekend. And Paris is exciting. But it's not realistic to be planning to go to Paris with someone that you don't know. And it is a tactic that a lot of humans will use to try and manipulate people into liking them by discussing the future and getting your hopes up. The simple trick to notice this is to try and reflect after every interaction, every meeting. Did what they said coincide with reality? Do I know them well enough to think about that as a future action? Yes or no? Because the likelihood is, if you've only met someone once, going to Paris is not an option for you right now. And the last red flag that I'm going to talk about today that most people miss is not listening to your body. After every interaction, you should be noticing how you felt. Did you feel like yourself? Did you feel anxious? Did you walk away thinking, why did I say that? Or why did I agree to that? Because normally the body knows what is going on before our brain can catch up. If you feel the same way after the first few meetings, the first few interactions, that is normally a sign that something is wrong. It's no different to the times in your life where you knew something, but you couldn't actually explain how you knew what was going to happen or what it was. And I just want to say that most people don't miss these red flags because there's something wrong with them or anything to do with intelligent levels or anything like that. I get a lot of my clients when they come to me, they will say, "I was so stupid," and I correct that wording because it isn't stupidity. The majority of people that I work with that fall for some of these tactics are very, very intelligent people. So it isn't about that. Most people miss these red flags because of hope. They are hopeful for love. And they want it in the quickest and the easiest way possible, which that isn't going on lots of dates with lots of people. Quick and easy is one date, one person, done. And it rarely happens like that. But as humans, we want everything to be quick and easy. So when it comes to love, why would you not want the same? And what happens is people will notice the things that they like and then ignore the other things. And if that's you, don't beat yourself up about it. We've all been there. You are just like all the other billions of people in this world who are trying to make life simpler. What I will invite you to do now that you have this knowledge, after every interaction, notice if you feel anything within your body. FYI, feeling something in your stomach normally means anxiety. It's not butterflies. It often gets confused all the time where people will be like, I had butterflies. And actually that's anxiety. It's the same feeling. And then I'd like to invite you to ask yourself, if your son, your daughter, your best friend, niece, nephew, described this date, this interaction, what would you say? And if the answer is negative, then you know what to do. Because the truth is, red flags aren't usually like neon signs glaring at you. They are tiny little whispers that you need to tune into. And if you've been hurt before, your body might ignore those little whispers because chaos feels familiar for you. But the more you heal, the more you'll notice them early and walk away before wasting your time. So I said to you earlier, how long does it take? How many sessions does it take for me to get to the true depth of my client's hurts? And it is normally, on average, session 4. And you've got to think, normally, so every single one of my one-to-one clients have had a discovery call. So we have a chat for around half an hour. It often does go over, to check whether I am suitable for them, whether they are suitable for me. So I've had that initial conversation and found out bits about their life. But it is normally in session 4 that the true breakthroughs come through, where it's like, this is what happened and this is why you are behaving this way. I'm trained to get people to talk to me. So if someone is oversharing to you and you haven't been trained to get people to talk to you, and they're telling you on a first, second, third date about their ex who did whatever, about something traumatizing as a child, that is an alarm bell going off to you. And if you want to learn how to rewire your nervous system so that you stop missing these signs and finally attract healthy, aligned love, make sure that you subscribe, share this episode with a friend. I hope you have the most wonderful day, and I will speak to you soon. Now that you've made it to the end of the episode, I just want to personally invite you to something really special. Most people who listen to my show are tired of going through toxic relationship cycles and tired of dating people who really are not the ones for them. And most people who listen to this podcast tend to wonder why they keep attracting the wrong partners. And that is where I come in. I'm running a 2-night live masterclass to show you how healing your nervous system can reset your love life and help you attract real aligned love. Go grab your spot right now at thesammorris.com/RFL, and I'll post a link in the show notes. Thank you, as always, for listening.